defendants object to the court's November 14, 2025 order document 291, scheduled a closed door status conference on defendant's joint motion to disqualify, dismiss indictment, vacate schedule order, reopen pretrial.
Lil Durk's legal situation just took a wild turn after reports surfaced that some of his fans allegedly sent death threats to the judge and prosecutor, and now his lawyers arguing the entire case should be thrown out. The Fed supposedly kept these threats hidden for 7 months, raising major questions about fairness in the investigation. So is Durk finally about to walk free, or will these murder-for-hire charges still hold? Let's break everything down. According to federal documents, Lil Durk, real name Derek Banks, was arrested by agents on October 24, 2024, after they caught him at a Florida airport, accusing him of trying to flee the country. Prosecutors claim he coordinated a murder-for-hire hit on August 19, 2022, at a gas station near the Beverly Center in L.A. The intended target was Quando Rondo, but the shooters allegedly hit his cousin, Xavier Lil Pab Robinson, instead. Investigators say the entire plot was retaliation for the November 2020 killing of King Von during the confrontation with Quando Rondo's crew in Atlanta.
He's 32, a successful rapper, and a Grammy Award winner. Federal authorities say Lil Durk is also behind an alleged murder-for-hire plot.
Wow, guys. We have Lil Durk, who's been gone now for a year, is what it's looking like.
In this storyline, the charges being thrown around are nothing to play with. Durk is up against conspiracy to commit murder-for-hire, using interstate communication for a hit that led to a death and stalking that allegedly resulted in a fatal outcome. If he takes an L in court on these counts, that's life behind bars, no deals, no halfway options. It's either beat the case or it's over, plain and simple. So what do the feds claim they are holding against him? According to the narrative, they're saying they got the entire blueprint laid out, like they've been tracking every move from start to finish.
According to the complaint, Banks and his co-conspirators allegedly worked together to, quote, track, stalk, and attempt to murder a target at a Los Angeles gas station, firing at least 18 rounds into the person's vehicle.
He's 32, a successful rapper, and a Grammy Award winner. Federal authorities say Lil Durk is also behind an alleged murder-for-hire plot.
In this narrative, the feds are also claiming they've got wiretaps and bank records that supposedly tie Durk to calling the shots. They allege that Grant even used Durk's card to buy ski masks and reserve room for the hitters. Durk entered a not guilty plea, and his whole team has been pushing hard to fight every angle of the case. But on paper, the evidence is looking heavy, no sugarcoating it. Now here's where everything takes a wild turn. On November 13th, 2025, Durk's legal powerhouse squad filed a motion demanding the entire case be tossed out. Their argument? The government was playing foul, hiding crucial information from the defense for more than 7 months. According to the storyline, this is how things unfolded. On February 22nd, 2025, 4 voicemails were left for U.S. Magistrate Judge Patricia Donahue messages that weren't just hate mail, but direct threats against her life. One message allegedly warned, "If they get life, I'm going to burn this mother night down. I'm talking about the world, and I'm going to burn it to the ground." And it didn't stop there. On April 28, 2025, lead prosecutor Ian Yaniello reportedly received a threatening call as well, with someone telling him and his people to free Durk or get shot.
Under the judicial system, in order for a attorney or somebody in your behalf, this is one of the biggest fights in California history in the federal jurisdiction. This shows you what $1 billion attorney to bring the facts that Durk's attorneys found out through their investigation that there was a conspiracy with the judge, the prosecutor, and the investigators to weigh aside and cause threats that Durk had killers putting a contract on the judge.
So, check this out. The FBI jumped on this case immediately, putting all federal judges in California on high alert. U.S. Marshals were called in to provide security. This was serious business. But here's where it gets messy. Durk's lawyers weren't told about any of this until October 1st, 2025, that's more than 7 months later. Now, you might be asking, Okay, so some wild fans made threats. How does that affect Durk? Let me break down the legal source. Judge Donahue held a bail hearing on May 8, 2025, and basically denied Durk's release. But at that time, she was supposedly receiving death threats from Durk supporters, and the defense wasn't informed. Durk's lawyers argued this created a conflict of interest. They claimed the judge couldn't be impartial, and had they known about the threats, they could have requested a different judge. Left in the dark, they are now saying every ruling made during that period is tainted.
So when they found out about it, and they did not, this has been going on for the last couple of weeks, I guess, and when they found out about it, and they presented it to the court had hid it and not said anything about it to the defense. So that means that if a judge is being threatened by a defendant, in all actuality, he should, what they call, recuse himself, get off the bench, and let another judge take this over.
In their 25-page motion, Durk's attorneys laid it all out. They argued that the integrity of criminal prosecution relies on transparency and impartiality, both of which were federally compromised here. These violations cut to the heart of due process and constitutional guarantee of a fair hearing before an unbiased decision-maker. According to them, dismissal is the only proper remedy. They are not just asking for a new judge either. They want the whole case thrown out or, at minimum, moved to an entirely different district with brand new judges and prosecutors. That's how seriously they view this violation. The prosecution, however, wasn't about to let it slide. They labeled Durk's motion as frivolous and extreme, claiming they disclosed the threats as soon as their investigation concluded. They argue they were protecting the integrity of the investigation and acted fully by the book. But here's the twist. Prosecutors also requested an anonymous jury, citing the same threats as evidence that Durk supporters were attempting to intimidate people connected to the case. On one hand, they claim the threats aren't that serious, just fans talking wild, but on the other, they use the threats to justify hiding jury identities and adding heavy security. In their filing, prosecutors wrote, defendant supporters have already attempted to intimidate individuals connected to this case, painting Durk as someone with a dangerous network capable of reaching federal officials. A hearing on this motion was scheduled for November 18, 2025, in front of Judge Michael Fitzgerald at the LA Federal Court, and trust me, it's about to get intense. Legal experts nationwide are watching closely because situations where death threats to a judge are hidden from the defense rarely happen.
So we got stuff to get into, bruh. What the hell? The feds decided to respond, then the judge responded, then turn around, Drew already on their heels like, y'all can't even do this until something else happens.
Now, most legal experts are saying that getting the whole case dismissed is a long shot. Federal precedent usually favors the prosecution, and judges rarely throw out entire cases over procedural missteps. But moving the case to a different district, that's more realistic. Having all the judges in Central California disqualify themselves? That could happen too. The trial is currently scheduled for January 20th, 2026, but depending on how this motion plays out, that date could get pushed back. If Durk's team succeeds in relocating the case, we could be looking at an entirely different scenario. The streets are talking, and the evidence is stacking up. Before diving into the current situation, it's important to review Lil Durk's rap sheet to understand how the feds are approaching this prosecution. Durk has been facing legal issues since he was young. Back in 2011, he was charged with gun possession during a shooting investigation and served 3 months. In 2012, he took a plea deal for aggravated unlawful use of a weapon and did another 3 months. In 2013, he was caught with a stolen burner and spent 43 days locked up. In 2014, he faced another gun charge while on probation, but that one was eventually dropped. The most serious charge before this came in 2019, when Derek and King Vaughn were hit with attempted murder charges in Atlanta related to a shooting at the Varsity restaurant, but those charges were dismissed in 2022. Here's the twist. In September 2024, just weeks before this case, Derek had his entire criminal record expunged. He had cleaned up his past legally, and then boom, federal murder-for-hire charges hit. According to the indictment, this stems from the ongoing feud between only the family and crews affiliated with Quando Rondo and NBA Youngboy. King Vaughn was killed on November 6, 2020, outside a hookah lounge in Atlanta during an altercation between Vaughn's people and Quando Rondo's crew. Timothy Leaks, a.k.a. Lulim, part of Vaughn Security, allegedly fired the shots that killed Vaughn. Those charges against Lulim were dropped in 2023. Prosecutors claim Durk allegedly orchestrated retaliation, putting a bag on Quando Rondo's head and using financial resources to fund the operation.
You wouldn't tell somebody to not book a flight under your name if you thought that they were going to do regular old business. If you thought they was going to LA to do a meeting about you and your next album, you wouldn't tell them to not do it in your name. You would only tell somebody, don't book no flights under no name involved, and you would only say that to somebody who you know is about to go do something illegal, and you don't want yourself involved.
Fast forward to August 19th, 2022. 5 members flew from Chicago to LA on one-way tickets purchased with OF-affiliated credit cards. That same day, Durk boarded a private jet to California with Kayvon Grant. That evening, the shooters, along with 2 whips, tracked Quando Rondo to a gas station near the Beverly Center. They fired at least 18 shots at his vehicle, tragically killing his cousin, surveyor Lil Pab Robinson. Quando Rondo escaped unharmed. Grant allegedly used Durk's card to buy ski masks for the shooters and cover their hotel rooms. That's the paper trail the feds are leaning on heavily. Durk isn't the only one facing charges. In this indictment, 5 other men were also charged. Kayvon London Grant murdered DeAndre Dantrell Wilson, D.Y. Keith Jones, Sleazy David Bryan Lindsay, Boom, and Asa Houston Boone Mo.
Lil Durk's federal case just hit a whole new level of chaos. So authorities are now requesting an anonymous jury after alleged threats against the judge and prosecutor. Prosecutors say the rapper tried to destroy an Apple Watch in jail to cover his tracks, and he's now being accused of allegedly taking out hits on his own O-Block associates.
And here's where things get really spicy for Durk. Word on the street is the government has a star witness, someone cooperating, but we don't know who because the feds keep cooperating witnesses name sealed until trial. Apparently, this witness has changed their story multiple times. According to court documents, they first claimed there was no bounty and that they acted under duress. Then they flipped the script, saying there was a bounty and that co-defendant DeAndre Wilson stayed in LA to collect and distribute the money. The defense argues that this second story contradicts objective evidence, which is why the government removed the language about Wilson paying out the bounty in the superseding indictment. This is major. A key witness changing their story like that can blow up a case or at least give the defense serious ammunition during cross-examination. Now, let's talk about something that sparked debates for years, using rap lyrics as evidence in criminal cases. In the original indictment, prosecutors included lines from Durk's songs Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, claiming he was celebrating and Mondaizing the killing of Lulu Pab. They argued the lyrics were Durk's way of flexing about the hit. But his defense team pushed back immediately, showing the songs were recorded 7 months before the shooting. They provided file-stamped audio and producer testimony to prove it. Unless Durk has psychic powers, there's no way those lyrics could have been about that specific incident.
However, there was no screams in it. What the government said is, look at these lyrics. These lyrics seem to be, they don't seem to be, they are celebrating and ultimately monetizing this incident. To which we responded, and I have to tell you, Vlad, we immediately started hearing from not only people that are connected to Durk, but like executives in the music industry. People were just reaching out to us, the government's wrong, right? You do know that music, you don't go to a studio on a Saturday and produce a song on Monday. And then we started doing our homework, interviewing the producers, and found out that song and the Durk part of it was done 7 months before.
In a superseding indictment issued in May 2025, the government removed those lyric references entirely. That's a major win for Durk's defense. But it also highlights how eager prosecutors were to use his art against him, even when the facts didn't back it up. This ties into a larger issue in hip-hop culture. California passed the Decriminalizing Artistic Expression Act in 2022, which limits the use of rap lyrics in criminal cases, but this is a federal case, so that state law doesn't apply.
And I'm sensitive to that issue because I don't know of another art form, and you have your finger on the pulse of rap as good as anybody in the world right now. And I guarantee you that Vlad cannot tell me another musical genre in which the government plays the game. If you have kids, and I know you do, Where's Waldo, right? Where they sit and look through not hundreds, not thousands, but probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of verses, and tries to find something that they think in their prosecutor's office or their law enforcement offices is somehow connected possibly to a crime. That's disconcerting to people that care about this musical genre.
But wait, there's more heat. Unsealed documents have allegedly linked Durk to other murder-for-hire plots. In December 2024, reports surfaced connecting him to a 2021 Chicago murder involving Stefan Mack, allegedly in retaliation for his brother D-Thang's death. A confidential witness also accused Durk of placing bounties on 6 other individuals. No charges have been filed in those cases, but prosecutors are using them to build a narrative. They plan to present witness testimony claiming Durk ordered hits on his own associates who failed to avenge King Vaughn's death. If true, this portrays Durk as ruthless, demanding loyalty and control. Again, no new charges have been filed based on these allegations theory being used to influence a jury. Here's another piece of the puzzle. In late August 2025, Bureau of Prisons officials confiscated an Apple Watch with cellular capability from Durk while he was in custody. Possessing a smart device in federal jail is a serious violation, but it gets worse. Prosecutors allege that when Durk was caught with a watch, he tried to destroy it. They are using this as evidence that Durk was willing to obstruct justice and tamper with evidence. They also claim he made unregulated 3-way phone calls from the Metropolitan Detention Center in L.A., another violation. The government is using all of this to argue that Durk is dangerous and shouldn't be released on bond. Speaking of bond, Durk has been denied multiple times. Judge Patricia Donahue denied his release in May 2025, and Judge Michael Fitzgerald upheld that decision in June 2025. Durk's legal team offered $1 million in cash, $900,000 in real estate, $150,000